Welcome. I'll give a few minutes for some people to come on in. Let's see here. Let me see if I can find myself here. There we are. Okay. Mute that. All right. All right, cool. What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to start here in a minute here. We're going to go over some topics that I had. Oh, so the reason why you're seeing an empty tent right now with the DWC empty bucket, because I just had my harvest right now. Moby Dick Auto just got harvested. So if you followed on my channel, you'll be able to see on there what it was before, and then this is show you guys a little of what it is now. All right, there's one cola right here holding up. She's pretty frosty. I don't think my phone does that much justice on the trichomes, but I promise you guys, she's frosty. All right, cool guys. All right, I'll give it another minute or so, and then I'm gonna start continuing over the topic. We're gonna go over drying and curing cannabis. Yep, drying and curing. Definitely separates good cannabis from exceptional cannabis. Drying and curing. Yep, sure does. All right, and if you guys ever hear me go silent, guys, that's either because I am taking a drink of coffee, drink of water, or I'm taking a toke. Either one of those things are happening. All right, and I do apologize. I do usually come on 1 hour later, 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. But I got some family visiting, so I got to do it an hour prior. So yeah. So, all right, guys, we'll just jump right into it here. So, you can grow, guys, you can grow some absolute fire for 4 months, but if you rush the final week, you're gonna lose terpenes, you're gonna lose flavor, smoothness, you're gonna even lose potency. So tonight I'm gonna walk you guys through exactly how I approach drying and curing cannabis, and explain. I'll explain some of the steps that I take. I'll share some mistakes I've made. Bust a few myths. And answer any questions that you guys have along the way. Yeah, definitely. So, hey, yeah, how's it going, guys? How you doing, Maria Delfina, Salvano Hernandez? All right, how you doing? How's it going? Welcome, welcome. All right, tonight we're going to be going over drying and curing cannabis, guys, here, and I'll show you a little treat here. The reason why you guys see an empty tent is because I just harvested my Moby Dick Auto, and here's a big cola I left out for you guys so you guys can check out. Yep, I don't think my phone does that much justice, though, on the trichomes, but she's definitely frosty, guys. Yep, Moby Dick Auto, and I got her from Fast Buds, so I do definitely recommend it. She is very lemony on the terpenes, super terpy, definitely super terpy. All right, guys. So, chat, let me know where you guys are watching from. Whether you guys are growing indoors or outdoors. Whether you guys like autoflowers or photo periods, and what's your favorite strain that you guys harvested? Let me know in chat, and we'll jump right into it here. So a harvested plant is still changing, guys. It's still going through a lot of stuff. You got chlorophyll and stuff is breaking down. You got moisture that's migrating from the center of each flower toward the outside. You got a lot and it all depends too. Like if at your harvest, if you water like the day before you harvest, all that water is going to be getting sucked up into your plant, which is not a bad idea to harvest the day after you water if you're in a dry area. Me personally, yeah, I'm Midwest, so it's pretty dry where I'm at. I mean, I think the resting RH is anywhere between 25 and 30%, so that's pretty dry. So I definitely need a humidifier for me. But I mean, yeah, like I said, it doesn't hurt if you water the day before and then harvest, because it'll add some moisture and slow down the drying time. for your cannabis. And definitely, you definitely want to do that. You got to slow it down. All right. How can I check if my seeds are okay? Oh, sure. Cool. Okay, so right on, dude. All right, Balo, here. So check this out. So if you want to know if your seeds are okay before you start germinating them, you do the squeeze test on them. So you just grab one and you'll squeeze. Give put a decent amount of pressure on there and then squeeze it. And then if it pops, yeah, that's no good. If it stays hard, if it stays really rock hard and it's showing it doesn't fall apart or break apart on you, then it's good. Your seed's still viable. Now, if they're old seeds, I would recommend using hydrogen peroxide. Add a little bit to that, so some RO water. And if you're going to soak your seed overnight, I would recommend that. That adds extra oxygen to the yep, that's it. Yeah, yeah. To test your seeds, man, just squeeze them, and if it pops, then they're no good. If it breaks up on you, breaks apart on you, they're old, they're no good. And if you know for a fact you do have old seeds, like I said, use the hydrogen peroxide method. Just put a little squirt of that in with some RO water, and then soak your seed overnight. And that extra oxygen will help kickstart that germination process in the seed, and you'll have some pretty good luck. So like if you have like 3-year-old seeds or something like that, you can definitely pop those in some hydrogen peroxide and some RO water, and they'll pop, they'll grow on you. So definitely. All right. Oh, is this your first time? Okay, cool. Indoor. Right on. Right on. Are you doing a autoflower or photo period? Yeah, because I love to grow autoflowers. That's all I do is autoflowers. Now I grow photo periods too, but I just not yet. On this whole year, I'm gonna focus on growing nothing but autoflowers inside of DWC that you see pointed at right here. This is my DWC 5-gallon bucket. Um, hey, Vast Jester, how's it going? How you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Thanks for coming in. We're just talking about drying and curing cannabis. Okay, cool. You ordered some seeds from Holland. Right on. What genetics did you order? I'm curious. Balo, let me know. What did you order? Yeah, this next one I've got running up. I'm gonna do either. I can't decide whether I'm gonna pop. It's gonna be either Mendo Frost, or Apple Strudel, yeah, Strudel. All right, Purple Haze. Okay. Heck yeah. All right, you got the. All right, you got Sativa. Sweet. Sweet. Heck yeah. All right. Cool. That's cool. Heck yeah. Here, I'm gonna take a little toke before I do here. I'm gonna show you this little nug I got right here. I don't know if you guys can, if this will do me justice on here or not. Let's see here. Let me try to see if it'll focus. Nope, doesn't look like it will. Nope. Dang it. It's a pretty frosty nug right now. It's called Apricot Scone. That's what I'm puffing on right now. It's really good. I didn't grow it. A buddy of mine grew it, and then turned me on to some. He gave me some to try out and stuff. So it's pretty damn good. I'm gonna take a little quick toke real quick. Yeah. Actually, this not necessarily. This one doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's pretty frosty, but it's not sticky. It's not too sticky. It's a little bit on the drier side. It was grown in a greenhouse, um, so it's a little bit on the drier side. But but this one right here, my Moby Dick Auto, what I just chopped, this bad boy right here, this is sticky. This is super sticky. Whew. That one got me. Yeah, so yeah, like like I said, a harvested plant back to, curing and drying and curing. So a harvested plant, it's still changing. You got your chlorophyll, which is still breaking down, and your chlorophyll, that's what's responsible for making that hay taste. So I don't know if you've ever grown some hay back in the day. Um, you know, you thought you were growing some really good weed, and then you went to go dry it out, and then all it was just hay, nothing but hay. I've done that before when I first started growing out weed. Yep, I've done that. I mean, what one? I want to say about maybe 6 times, somewhere right around there. It was quite a few times that I grew some hay weed, and it sucked, because I spent so hard much time, money, um, and stuff like that. Yeah. Um, yeah, you spend all your time and nutrients and stuff like that going into your plant, and then just for the dry and cure just to go to crap, at the end, and then just mess up your total harvest. So yeah, that's definitely happened to me before. It sucks. It totally sucks. But as the years gone on, and I've got to learn more from different people along that I met along the way, and different videos too that I've learned, and books and stuff like that. You get pointers and stuff like that you learn, and I got better. Eventually I got better to the point where now, I mean, I think I got some pretty decent. I got my dry and cure on point. I think not necessarily on 100% on point. That's not, nope, because right now my dry room is about 65. It's about 65, and I want it to about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's about 65 right now. And then my humidity is about 50%, and I want that up to about 65%. So I'm still trying to dial it in. But for the most part, I got it on lock though, so I'm not really too worried about my dry and cure. Um, just because in the past I've been able to do pretty good on that. Anyway, so anyway, back to, so you got chlorophyll and it's breaking down in your plant. As soon as you chop it down, it immediately starts to break down, and this is why they say to have a long and dry cure. And you definitely, the longer the better. That if you can do it, yeah, definitely you want the longer the better. Um, and it just makes your weed taste so much better at the end. Uh, Definitely. So if you can dry for about, maybe 7 to 14 days, have a good, nice dry, and then cure it for about another week and a half or so, maybe to 2 weeks, um, you would have some really killer stuff by the end of that. So I would say about total, about maybe a month, a little over a month total for the dry and cure, and you're gonna have some really killer stuff to puff on, and you're gonna be really stoked and happy with yourself. Um, yeah. So anyway, as it's breaking down, you have your terpenes, and those can easily evaporate with conditions if they're too hot or too dry. So you gotta get it right in that Goldilocks zone, when you're drying, because you don't want to lose your terpenes, right? All that hard work you put in to make your weed really potent and strong. You don't want to lose that. Nobody does. Who does? So what you got to do is, you just got to make sure you dial in that environment and get it to close to 60-60 as you can. Now, I know some people say that's the sweet spot, but sometimes I've noticed it can vary depending, and it all depends on where you're at too. I mean, humidity for everybody where they're at is different. Like I said, for where I'm at in Midwest, it's pretty damn dry here. So, for me, what I have to do is almost leave the plant on whole, but I didn't this time. I did it on just cutting off different branches, different colas, and laying them in my dry tent. And then I have it in my closet right now. So I have that going on. And I'm in and I did that, and I left a lot of the stems on there, and that way it would just take a lot more longer for the moisture to draw out of it. So it would prolong my drying time. So it's not like 4 days go by and that's already crisp when I go touch a bud or something like that. That would be devastating, because then that means that it's not fully broken down yet, and that's probably going to leave my weed tasting like hay, which you don't want that. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants their good tasting weed to turn into hay. Yep. So just nice and slow. All right. So when you think about drying, think a bit like aging, a fine steak, guys, or letting homemade bread cool down properly. If you rush it, you're going to reduce the quality. It's going to turn like, if you ever had a fresh loaf of bread and you cut right into it, when it comes out, it's going to flatten up on you. It's going to look real bad in the next 5-10 minutes. That loaf of bread's going to look pretty bad. So don't rush it. That's the point I'm trying to get, is just don't rush your dry, and don't rush that cure. And I know you're super excited, especially if it's your first time growing. and you're super stoked because you want to get in there and you want to smoke your weed already, or you're really excited to go and share it with your buds and stuff like that, your buddies, and you just please take your time when it comes to the dry and cure. Take your time because you'll thank me at the end. I guarantee it. Um, yeah. So okay. So what are some common mistakes that people do when they dry? They think, especially when you're a new grower, you think, hey, maybe if I put my herb in the sunlight, nope, that's bad idea, because that sunlight, that direct sunlight, will just obliterate your trichomes and your terpenes. All that will just start evaporating like crazy. Um, so you definitely don't want to dry in direct sunlight, or point a fan directly at the buds, because you'll dry them out real quick. High temperatures, I mean, obviously, high temperatures are going to dry out your herb. Very low humidity will dry out your herb too. And then constant handling. When you go in and start unzipping your tent and going in there and messing with your buds and moving them around too much, and that's creating all that moisture that was in there, is now leaving it every time you open up your tent and go into it, or wherever your dry room is. So try not to go into your dry room as much as possible, if preventable. Try not to go in there as much. Keep your humidity at a decent, between 55 and 65. Definitely, that's where I would keep. That's where I would do it, and keep it around maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's it. You don't really want to, on the Fahrenheit part. You don't really want to go over. You don't want to get up into the 70s or mid 70s for that matter, because it will dry your weed out too fast, and we don't want to do that. Not at all. Like I said, you want to take it nice and slow, and so you can have that nice tasty crispy weed at the end. Um, at the end when it's ready, definitely. So yeah, guys, let me know in chat if you've ever made a mistake, drying and curing. If you've ever dried it and then you went to go and take a toke or something, and all of a sudden it tasted like hay, or just really wasn't ready. Yeah, let me know in chat. All right, so let's talk about, all right, building the perfect dry room. Okay, well, see, let me get this straight off right here, guys. Nothing is perfect. Okay, nothing. I guarantee you, nothing 100% is perfect. Now you may have it dialed in pretty damn close, and okay, and if it's dialed pretty damn close, call it perfect. Sure, why not? Um, but for everybody else, for me, it's been a really hard time to dial in my dry and cure. So that being said, I still need a lot of work too on my dry and cure, but I have it okay for the most part. I need it where I want it to, but except for my humidity. My humidity just needs to rise up a little bit more, which I'm working on right now. And sometimes I'll just leave an extra bowl with my humidifier going, just leave an extra bowl of water in the corner or somewhere inside the closet to add that extra humidity. Stuff like that, or go in there and spray down a little bit, not directly on the buds, because you don't ever want to do that. Um, that'll mess up your herb. So yeah. All right. So the ideal temp, yeah, the humidity you want around 55, 65. You want a complete darkness, guys, and then you want a gentle indirect airflow. So you don't want fans directly pointed right at your buds, but it's good to have a fan maybe pointed at the ground or towards the wall. Wherever your dry room is where that wind can bounce off the wall and slowly, go against your herb. Now that's fine, but you don't want the fan directly blowing right at it, because then you'll just dry it. You'll just dry it in like 2 days or something, and then you'll go in there and check on your buds, and they'll just be crispy as hell. Um, yeah, which will, I mean, I would be sad if that happened to me. Uh, so you want to keep your drying space clean for sure. Um, and and if you and then there's you can wet trim, or there's dry trim. Now I prefer to dry trim, so I'll just leave all my fan leaves and all my leaves on it. When I cut it down, it'll just protect and add that extra humidity. It keeps the humidity more in. And like I said, where I'm at, the RH here is pretty damn low, so I need that extra bump in humidity. So So I will, like I said, I will, when I cut and harvest, I will add extra stems to that. So because I know that added extra moisture in there. I know, cutting it, like, what I mean to say is, like, cutting it like a whole plant. You can cut it whole and then hang up the plant whole. I can do that. Now that would be very, very ideal for where I'm at. Except the only thing I was concerned with is that these buds were so big that I didn't want any bud rot or any powdery mildew or mold growing anywhere. I didn't want any of that happening, so I did it by branch, is what I did. Now I still left quite a bit on there, so there would be a lot more moisture and stuff in there. It would take a lot longer for it to dry out. And then I'm keeping my room at a constant, 65 degrees. I'm trying to get a little cooler, but it's pretty hard to do. And then my humidity, like I said, I'm just trying to up that humidity up a little bit, which I know I'll get there, and then I'll be set. I'll be right where I want to be. It's just getting there. That's the hard part, is getting there. So um, knowing when your dry is complete. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the snap test. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the snap test, but that's when. Hold on. Cheers, guys. Give me a second here. All right, snap test is when you grab a branch, and then you go to bend, it, and you want to hear a snap. You want to hear that snap. If it just bends right away and it just comes down, nope, a lot of moisture in it. But it doesn't break, still quite a bit of moisture in it. Now, if it feels dry, crunchy to the touch, but then when you go to bend it and it snaps off, too dry. That's too dry. What we want is, we want to bend it where we can feel that it's kind of dry, but we want to bend it and it just snaps. You hear just a light snap. Snap. That is perfect. That's when you need to take them and put them into jars, or whatever you prefer. I prefer jars. I guess now, in this day and age, everyone's liking the Grove bags, stuff like that. I personally never have used the Grove bags, or the Grove bags. Um, that would be, maybe one time I'll use them, maybe on one harvest, and see if I like them. But I'm old school, I guess you could say. I like to stick to my jars. So we'll just use a little, little jars, like such, like that, um, and just yeah, fill them up and put my hydrometers in there, so I can continuously monitor the RH, and keep it around 62, about 62 degrees, or 62 degrees, 62 humidity RH inside the jar. That's where you kind of want it. That's the sweet spot. If you can keep it there inside your jars while it's curing, then you're golden. Anything kind of less than that, then maybe I would think about buying a humidity pack or something like that. Add it to it to maybe up your humidity if it's too dry, and if it's too wet, then you're going to be burping a lot. And if you're not familiar with burping, it's just, all it is just every once in a while you just go up to your jars and you open them up to release the gas that's been inside the jar. You're going to release it and let fresh oxygen come into the jar, and then you're just going to, for a minute or so, and then put the lid back on, and then put your jars back into a dark area, as well. So when you're drying and curing, you always want a dark area. Never ever any light whatsoever, because that'll diminish your trichomes and your terpenes, which we don't want to do. We don't want to do any of that. Um, so yeah, so when you got the snap test, or you can feel the buds too. You can squeeze, take a little bud test and squeeze the buds. You can feel the moisture in there, um, and you never want to feel crispy before the curing. If you're touching your buds while they're drying, and they're crispy, yeah, that's too dry, way too dry. And think about, like I said, think about getting a humidity pack, to do that. Now, me, I personally, when I harvest, see, I'm taking my colas here, and I'm cutting them whole, and I'm leaving them on there like that. And I'm seeing, if you could see, I'm holding a little extra on the bottom here. See, I leave a little extra stem on the bottom, and that just adds extra humidity and all that when it's drying out. And then also, when it hangs up, all my fan leaves and stuff like that will start drooping down over it, creating like a shell, if you would, protecting it a little bit, adding that humidity and letting it stay in there so it doesn't dry out too fast. So So I do that. That's how I do that with mine. Now, if the colas weren't so big, then maybe I would have done it a whole plant, just chop the whole plant down and just hang it. But definitely the buds were too big, and I was worried about maybe some mold happening. And I didn't want no bud rot to happen in the middle of the buds either while they're drying and curing. Because you can't really see that until you start breaking up one of the buds, and then you'll notice whether it's rotting or not. And I don't want to do that. So the bigger the buds, the more concerned and you got to be about mold and stuff like that. So definitely, I put them in branches like that. That's why I didn't do them in a whole plant. So yeah, yeah, and then obviously as it's curing, chlorophyll is still breaking down. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. But it's still breaking down. And as it breaks down, the aromas mature. You get a lot of more mature aromas, and then your smoke just becomes way more smoother. Your flavors become more complex over time. Like if it's something, if you taste it and it smells like lemons, like you squeeze your bud and then you smell your fingers and it's like, wow, it smells like lemons. And then you go and smoke it after it's done curing and it's ready to go and it tastes like lemons. Heck yeah, you've done a great job. Yeah, you don't when you squeeze your buds and it smells like lemons and then you dry it out and then it tastes like hay. Yeah, somewhere along the lines there, we dried it way too fast, or that chlorophyll was just way too much into the plant and didn't break down. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with seeing a cannabis plant fade, how you see it change colors. You'll see the leaves yellowing and stuff like that towards the ending of its life. And that's because growers will intentionally stop feeding it nitrogen at a certain age, and just cut out the nitrogen and still give it the micro and still give it bloom nutrients. Um, but they'll cut out the nitrogen, and then what happens is the plant will just eat itself and will start taking healthy green leaves and just start taking the nitrogen that it needs from that. And then in turn it turns the plant leaves yellow. So then you'll start to see it fade, and you want to do that towards the end of flower because that will get rid of the majority of chlorophyll, because you don't want a buttload of nitrogen in your plant and then you harvest, because it's just going to take so much longer for your plant to break down all that nitrogen, the chlorophyll. I mean, it's going to have a really hard time breaking down that stuff in a timely manner. It's going to take you a lot longer to do that. So like and for instance, for me, it's too dry where I'm at, so that's out of the question for me. I wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe someone, maybe in Florida or something like that on the East Coast or something like that. Maybe they, with that extra humidity, maybe they could get away with something like that. But for the most part, yeah, yep. Um, so how many? So guys, let me know in chat right now. How many days does your harvest usually take to dry? Let me know. Let me know when you guys are at. How long it takes. I'm here in New Mexico, so my shit is just it takes not that long actually. Between seven and 9 days, 10 days. I want to say between 7 and 10 days. That sounds about right. It'll dry, and then from then on I'll get it and put it in jars. Um, and then I'll cure it for about another 2 weeks. 2 weeks, maybe even longer, depending on when I pop open those jars and start smelling them. Because sometimes you'll pop open that jar and smell them, and it smells like hay. Nope, you got to keep curing. And then when you start popping open those jars and it starts smelling like candy or fruity or more, dessert, and stuff like that, then you're right on the money and you can start smoking your herb. So that's something to look forward to too, guys. Especially all that hard work you guys put in to drying and curing. You definitely want your end result to be definitely fruitful and worthy. So yeah. So let's talk about the art of curing, guys. So now the real magic begins. You place properly dried buds into clean glass jars, and when you do fill them, you want to fill them about 75% full, about three-quarters of the way full. During the first week, you want to open each jar daily for several minutes to exchange the air, and release the excess moisture, because you don't want the excess moisture to build too much, because then what do we get? We get mold, and we don't want any of that. None of that. So you want to burp, let it, leave it for a few minutes, then pop that lid back on, and then pop your jars right back into a dark place. and then the next day you would do the same thing. Um, yeah, you would just, keep it open for several minutes, and then as the week passes, you reduce your burping frequency. The many times as you guys have to open up your jars, will reduce. You won't have to do it as much as the weeks go on. So as you know, so we covered, okay, so we covered the hay smell, we covered overdried buds, mold prevention for sure, right? Because we don't want, you don't want big fat nugs drying and then and then they get mold. That would just be devastating, definitely, especially when you put all your time, money, electricity, nutrients, just trying to get your plant to the end game. So, and we talked about why. Oh, you know what? We didn't talk about it, but you know what? Maybe I should let you guys know. I mean, obviously, I don't have to tell you guys that moldy weed you guys should not consume at all. Throw away, discard. That is no good. Do not smoke it. It is totally 100% bad for you. You will probably most likely get sick. So do not smoke weed that has mold or powdery mildew. Um, Stuff like that. Just the mold and the mildew, that those kinds of things. You don't want to consume any of that. That's just no bueno. Um, Not good. So, yeah. All right, live chat guys. Let me know, how long do you guys usually cure for when you try before trying your first sample? How long do you guys usually cure? Is it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month? Let me know in chat how long it takes for you guys to cure before you guys dip into your stash. Let me know. I'm gonna take a quick toke real quick, guys. So I'm gonna be some radio silence here. Oh, oh man. All right. Whew, that one got me there. All right, guys. Yeah, chat. Let me know. Let me know what's the biggest mistakes you guys have ever made during your drying process, your curing process. Let me know if you guys prefer your wet trim over dry trim, and let me know why. Let me know why. I'd be curious to know. Definitely, I like to do my dry trim when it's dry. That's when I'll go in and trim, and I only do that, obviously, like I said, for the moisture, the added moisture that it keeps in for me while I dry it. So that's why I do that. Let me know if you guys have accidentally over dried a harvest, and were you able to bring it back? Let me know, guys. Definitely want to know some questions from you guys. Definitely, I want to be, trying to be more involved in the cannabis community, guys. So, I want to ask more questions. I want you guys to be more involved. Please, I don't want anybody to feel scared or afraid or to shoot out to me or to write to me. So yeah, sorry guys, I had an alarm set there. All right, yeah, just let me know, guys, in chat. Feel free, come on. You guys can hit me up anytime you guys want. Um, about ask me anything, or if you guys have topics that you guys want me to discuss. I do lives every Thursday. I do them at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, except for this last week and then this week. I had some family visiting. Other than that, I will be consistent and we'll be back on time, guys, at 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time every Thursday. So if you guys have anything you like to talk about, or if you guys are unsure about something and you want to learn more about something, just please reach out to me, let me know, and I will do a topic on that. We'll do an hour discussion. I will dive deep and research and learn as much as I can about that topic for you guys in order for me to be of service, to help out and just and educate. Yeah, I mean, that's all I like to do, guys. Come together as a community, be everyone be come together as friends, as gromies, and smoke up. Heck yeah, get that toke on, and come and just and do some like if you guys follow my channel and stuff, you guys can see all my Moby Dick, or I had blackberry moon rocks too I had growing. That was pretty fun. That was a fun grow. um, but I'm really digging. I know it's off subject, but I'm really digging this DWC grow, my 5 gallon bucket right here. I'm really digging it. The just real quick, the growth that you guys get from that is just insane. How fast the growth is. Um, anyway, yeah. So back to drying and curing. Yeah, guys, let me know in chat too. Let me know if you guys use glass jars or grow bags, or if you guys do the whole plant or branch hang. Like I said, I do the branch hang on this plant just because they had really big colas. And Yeah, hand trimming, bowl trimming. What do you guys prefer? Let me know. I actually prefer hand trimming. You can just get very in there, detailed. I love my weed to look amazing. So, yep, definitely. Okay, all right. So, live chat. I'm gonna leave it to you guys. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me or anything like that. Please reach out. You can ask me anything you like. If there's a certain strain you want to see me grow, please reach out to me. Let me know, and maybe I can make it happen. Or if there's some small time, small content creators like myself, and if there's others out there and they want to come together and collaborate, and we can do a grow all together, we can just grow all the same strain or something. Let me know. Reach out to me. We can definitely make that happen. I would love for something like that to go down. And I think I was talking to somebody, yeah, from Ohio. Let's see. Hopefully he reaches back out to me again, and I think we're gonna get together and do something like that, where we get a bunch of small time content creators, and we'll grow all the same strain, and we'll just document it and see and just see how everyone's grow comes out. We're not. I don't think it's competition. It's more like let's see basically which one has the most beautiful one. So I don't think it would be that much of a like you don't win a prize or nothing. I don't think, anyway. I'm not sure the rules and regs on that, but yeah, definitely if something like that ever goes down, I would love to be a part of something like that. So audience, if you guys are a part of something like that, or you want something like that to happen, please reach out to me and we can definitely make that happen. Heck yeah. All right. So, so we've covered quite a bit. We've covered the drying, what to do about the drying, the snap test. We've covered the curing part. You want to keep it around 62. That's the sweet spot in the humidity zone in your jars when you're curing. And then obviously when you're drying, you want to keep it around 65 degrees and around 60% humidity. That's kind of the sweet spot there too. And yeah, we've covered what else? What else have we covered? I mean, yeah, I've told you guys I've made mistakes too, in the past where I've done a harvest and all my weed tasted like hey, what I did was one time is I got a piece of foil and I made like a little bowl out of the foil and I set it on my deck outside on the handrail, and I put like a coffee can on there that had some sand in it to weigh down the foil so it wouldn't blow off. And I put some nugs in there to dry out in the sun and stuff like that, and let it. I don't know, maybe 4 hours or so. I came back and they were crispy. Um, yeah, it got me stoned, but I mean, it tasted like crap. I mean, it was just too crispy. I mean, it clearly had no idea what I was doing, and I thought I was doing something cool. I was like, yeah, I know I'm onto something right here. That's when I was, first started and stuff like. Well, we've all made mistakes. We've all been there. I've been there. So for new growth stuff like that, don't sweat it. Eventually, you'll get it down packed, and when you do, you'll be happy with yourself. In the meantime, it's just a learning curve. You just got to learn, experience with the plant as much time as you can with the plant. I suggest if you are a new grower, maybe start out with some photo periods and start with maybe regular photo period seeds, and start that way and mess around, and you can stress, and you can learn about the plant and stuff like that. Autoflowers are pretty finicky. You definitely can grow them if you want. You grow anything you want, of course. Guys, I'm not telling you what to grow. Just saying, for newbies, autoflowers can be very, very finicky, and I wouldn't recommend it to a new grower. I would recommend a regular seed photo period. Or if it's a easy and well now never mind because we got some easy enough strains nowadays now that a feminized seed can get a new grower all the way to the end with some decent results. So yeah, and the only reason why I say regular is because that way they can get to know the plant a lot more. I mean, I guess you could with the feminized, but if you stress out the feminized too much, you can herm on you. I mean, I guess regular seeds can herm on you too. I don't know. I just think regular seeds are a bit stronger when it comes to stressing them out and stuff like that. They can take a little bit more. I think I've noticed. I don't know. Let me know if you guys ever notice anything like that in chat. Um, yeah, let me know. And then yeah. So we've covered quite a bit, guys. We covered why, what happens in the heat. If you grow them out in the sun, there goes your what? There goes your terpenes and your trichomes. They just evaporate. And quite a bit. And you can have your environment on point and still you'll still lose some terps and some it's gonna happen and some trichomes. It's gonna happen, but you don't want to lose a bunch of it. So you still want your weed really, really dope, really, really good. So yeah. Okay, all right, guys. There's anything else you guys like to know from me? I think that sums it up. I'll show you guys my cola here one more time here. Look at that. She is a beauty, and that's Moby Dick Auto. She was an auto flower. Started her in April. And now she is done. She's 100% ready. And it was like about 10% amber trichomes that were on there. And I decided to cut her down. I don't like too much of that sedation. More like I like more of the head high than the sedation, more than the couch lock, than the grogginess. I don't think anybody really likes the grogginess. I've never met anybody that liked grogginess from weed. Um, but quite the opposite. That upper feeling and energetic and stuff like that. So yeah. So there it is, guys. That's why I do it. I chop her down by the branch for that added moisture. Yep, and that's it, guys. And then pretty soon, there's already another one that's going to be on the way right now. I already got one working. So we'll have another one growing, and I'll start documenting that one too, guys. And then eventually, here pretty soon, I'll have my 2x4 coming in, and then my light and my upgrade. So I'll be upgrading the tent. So I'll be having a total of 3 plants going on. Um, and yes, so when that happens, it's going to be awesome. I'll have some more content for everybody to watch. And yeah. All right, I think that sums it up for this evening's topic of drying and curing. If anybody's got any questions right now, please let me know in chat. All right. Until then, guys, much love, Gromies. You guys have a good one. Until next Thursday, all right, guys? Tune in. All right, peace out, guys.